race fans, welcome back to St. Petersburg, Florida for the start of the 2025 season of the USF Pro Championships presented by Continental Tire. My name's Rob Howden, and it has been over 6 months since we were last on the racetrack out in Portland to cap off the 2024 season, and thankfully, 2025 is now here. All the teams, all the drivers have been testing through the offseason, getting ready for this one race to get things underway on the street circuit here at St. Petersburg, and we know how exciting this first race can get. Both USF 2000 and USF Pro 2000 on the docket here this weekend. We're about to get set for qualifying. It's a long run to get to Portland in August to see who's going to come away with the championship and the scholarship to move up to the next level, but it all starts here. Qualifying, getting set to go with USF Pro 2000, and we're all super excited to be back and ready to go here in the state of Florida. The St. Petersburg Grand Prix, one of the most exciting street circuits on the USF Pro Championships calendar, takes place along the scenic waterfront of St. Petersburg, Florida. This 1.8-mile, 14-turn layout challenges drivers with a mix of high-speed straights and tight technical corners. The race kicks off with a fast, sweeping run down the main straight before diving into Turn 1, a tight right-hander that requires precise braking. From there, the circuit hugs the downtown streets, with turns 2 through 4 demanding high levels of car control as drivers navigate a narrow sequence of turns with concrete walls on either side. Midway through the track, the drivers face a series of technical corners before tackling the high-speed run down Bayshore Drive into Turn 10, where precision is key. The real test comes in the final sector, a fast run down the backstretch into Turn 11 and 12, then a sharp right into the Turn 14 hairpin before launching back onto the main straight. Challenging and always packed with action, welcome to the streets of St. Petersburg. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 2025, we will go qualifying here at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Again, hello to those of you tuning in around the country and around the world. We are live again on the USF Pro Championships YouTube channel and, of course, on the Series app as well. If you haven't downloaded the USF Pro Championships app, do that today. All live timing, live broadcast, everything available on the app wherever you are. So, first opportunity to get on as well the live video stream. We had some issues early on. The IndyCar and IMSP working their tails off to get everything dialed in, get the cameras all up and running, get things rolling here to start the weekend here at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. But we are now able to give you some images and getting things going as our drivers in USF Pro 2000 roll onto the track for their qualifying session. Once again, my name is Rob Howden, the voice of this USF Pro Championships program. Thrilled to be here and getting back at it for another fantastic season. Could be more excited about this particular category, USF Pro 2000. We have 22 drivers set to go here. Again, every one of these drivers trying to go after that scholarship to make the move up into the Indy Next program in 2026. Practice session this morning, clean and green. Again, kudos to the drivers for the second straight year getting maximum laps in during that 30-minute session. Max Garcia went P1 for Pabst Racing, last year's USF 2000 champion. Out of the gate strongly. Quickest lap, a 109.779. Elliott Cox, though, for Turn 3 Motorsports, who was one of the front runners last year in USF 2000 as well, makes it rookies 1, 2, 3. With Garcia, Cox, and Jacob Douglas making his return to the program. Not far back for Elliott Cox with a 109.89, just over a tenth of a second behind Garcia. Douglas third, Matt Clark for Exclusive Autosport, the Canadian, up into the fourth spot, and Ariel Elkin for TJ Speed Motorsports leading the trio over at TJ Speed. Alessandro Di Tullio was sixth, Max Taylor seventh, George Garcia Arce eighth, Owen Tangevelu in ninth, and Nicholas Montiero rounding out the top 10. Drivers on the racetrack right now for what is a 30-minute window, 20 minutes of green flag running if they get the job done. So once again, USF Pro 2000 drivers getting the first practice session in, back with a brief opportunity to go over all the data, all the video with their engineers to figure out what's going on. This will be their final session of the day here today. 2 laps, fastest lap in qualifying sets the grid for race 1, second fastest lap will set the grid for race number 2. Race 1 coming tomorrow just after the noon hour. Race 2 first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock on Sunday. Joined in the booth here this weekend, as I will, by the voice of this Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Todd Lewis. We'll have a couple of our driver analysts come and join us during the actual wheel-to-wheel race events. But Todd, great way to get things underway. We're out here in our booth on top of the parking garage. Beautiful day right now, 69 degrees ambient temperature.
I'm referring to it as the skybox view that we have this afternoon here at St. Petersburg. And interesting to see how the drivers approach this qualifying session. As you mentioned, it's one session. It was set the grid for 2 races. How quickly do you get up to speed? Your fastest laps will come towards the end of the session. Are you going to use one set of tires for this session? Will some drivers think maybe I'd like to put on that second set and assure myself of a good starting spot in race number 2? We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, there's so many different strategies, right? Let's say you come out of the gate really strong, maybe do 4 laps. You've also put a heat cycle into the tires, so sometimes those tires are going to be good for a race. If you put a heat cycle on, then you wait, hold on to them, and you run them in the morning on Sunday. That's another opportunity as well. The only problem is if we go green through the entire session and it's only 20 minutes, you're going to lose time getting those tires, new tires put on. That's the problem. Like now, if it's a 30-minute session, I think a lot of guys would lean more towards running 2 sets of tires. The shorter time, you've got to get out and get the laps in. So these opening couple of laps, I think, will change the strategy for a number of drivers. 3 sets of tires for the next 3 sessions, qualifying in both races. So you can essentially go with a fresh set here and a fresh set in both races. Todd, you mentioned, though, do you sacrifice a fresh set in one race to be able to get out here, make adjustments on the car, put new tires on, and to potentially go try to get P1 in both races? We'll
see how that strategy plays out as we're just about 4.5 minutes into this session right now. You mentioned 20 minutes of green flag time is guaranteed, so there's no guarantee that it will be a 30-minute session. It may just go just the 20 minutes, depending on if we can stay green or not. That's what everyone, I think, is hoping for. Have another full green session as we had this morning in the USF Pro 2000 Series practice. Everybody got maximum number of laps completed out on track to learn whatever they could here on the streets of St. Petersburg, and now deployed in the qualifying with Max Garcia currently under a 1:10 is the quick time.
This session has a lot more importance as well. This is essentially exactly where we're going to be on track for the race tomorrow as well. They started at 11:35 for race number 1, so it'll be very similar track conditions, except for the fact that we got an IndyCar coming out. We got Indy Next coming out. There's going to be a lot of different rubber laid down here. Yeah, temperature-wise, it's going to be the same, but once that IndyCar rubber comes out, it's definitely going to change things up a little bit.
That's the evolution of the racetrack over the weekend, is that, as you said, this is the last time they will be on track today. So many different cars will come out on track between now and then that we will see the condition of the track change. There's lots of rubber that goes down on the track from different series, so we'll see that it's going to change really quickly as the weekend goes on, and will be very different from this time tomorrow and even again on Sunday as there is more cars on track.
It's one of the things I really love about this kind of event. Toronto's the same way. It's never the same racetrack. Even when you go to a Mid-Ohio or a Portland or a Road America, where we're there with IndyCar the same way, the track does evolve throughout the weekend. I believe it evolves way more here at a street circuit because it's not a track that's been tested on for days and days and days, right? This is a track that only gets used once a year, so the drastic change, the contrast of the track on a Friday morning and a track on a Sunday morning is going to be so much different.
Well, the first session this morning was mostly about cleaning the track of all the dust and dirt that accumulates over the year. So now this track will feel probably a little bit different to these drivers back in the car.
I think it was Matt Clark that posted out on social media that going through the track walk, how you saw all the leaves, all the pop cans, all the water bottles. Like, it's not just dirt, it's just literally garbage that's out there that's been kind of blown onto the track as well. Max Garcia, let's pick this up right now as we're early into this run. Max Garcia on top, the driver who won the USF 2000 championship last year. A number of wins, but a very consistent run. He was the driver who turned the most laps, completed the most laps on the season as well. That, of course, leans itself to being a championship contender. He leads the way right now with a 109.045. Elliott clocks into the second spot. Alessandro Tullio in third. Ariel Elkin fourth, and Jacob Douglas in the fifth spot. Still a long time to go in the session, as we know. Still 12 and a half minutes. Let's take this opportunity, Todd, as we start the year here as well, to talk about some off-season changes technically with the race cars, both USF 2000 and USF Pro 2000, a bump in horsepower. For USF 2000, we took out the restrictor, moving it from 180 horsepower up to 200 horsepower, so they got a lot more top end speed. A little bit of a change, however, for the USF Pro 2000s. We've given them more RPM. We bumped up the soft limiter on the RPM up another 550. So they're up to, I believe, 8350, I think, is the RPM, the soft limiter. That's given them not only more top end, but some more bottom end as well. So the car kind of came alive a little bit where it's a little more peppy coming off the bottom.
And that will be something that I suspect these drivers will have been experiencing and trying to learn as much as they can through the simulator work in the off season. This wouldn't have been a change that's made this morning. This is something that would have been in place for a while, so they're going to take the opportunity to learn what they can.
There's an answer to our question right there. Will drivers be pitting? A number of drivers coming out of turn 14 diving into pit lane, so we are going to see pit stops here. Right now it's Garcia, Cox, DeTulio, Elkin, and Douglas. That's your current Fast Five. So coming in, I would expect for new Continental tires, and of course adjustments likely to the race car as well. So people ask, hey, why did you guys decide to bump up the horsepower? There's a couple of reasons for it. First and foremost, we have this group, these three programs as part of the USF Pro Championships. For USF 2000, taking that restrictor out, it's going to stretch the gap between juniors and USF 2000. So you're going to learn more coming from juniors, making that jump up to 2000. They're going to be a second and a half faster. For the pros, to give them the more RPM, yeah, it's going to bump that up as well, but it's also going to make it closer to the Indy Next car. Yeah, we separate USF 2000, USF Pro 2000 a little bit, but the cool factor is now that USF Pro 2000 car, peppier, you got to throw it around. It's not going to just take a set when you get back on the throttle. It might, you're going to get a little bit of exit oversteer. It makes it harder to drive, which makes it better training for Indy Next.
And that's the objective of this program, is to train drivers to move up. You love them to spend time in the series, but the objective is to pass through the entire ladder system. The goal for these drivers, Indy Next, perhaps the IndyCar series. Some others will go on to different disciplines as well, but as long as they keep moving forward and progressing in their careers.
Yeah, for the longest time, of course, our program was called the Road to Indy. Now it's a USF Pro Championship, so we look with a lot of pride at the drivers who didn't maybe go to the Indy route, but came out of our program and moved into IMSA sports cars, whether it's Parker Thompson and Aaron Tielitz. We've seen a lot of drivers move from our program over into sports car racing. And that, listen, if you developed in our cars and find your way into a professional career, we call that a check mark.
Absolutely. Just noticing the shift a little bit up towards the top of the timesheets. It's Max Garcia still. I thought Jacob Douglas had just moved up into second spot, though.
Matt Clark turning his fastest lap. He goes to sixth position. Also drivers last lap, Max Taylor up into ninth. Joey Brienza up into 10th. So a number of drivers turn their fast laps here. We've seen a couple of drivers come into pit lane. I want to say it looked to be like all three of the drivers from the Pabst Racing team coming in, and I think a number of the Turn 3 Motorsport drivers coming into pit lane as well. We talked about the fact that potentially different approaches. Are you saving a fresh set of tires? Because you can only get 3 sets. Do you use 2 in qualifying, 1 fresh set in a race, and 1 scuff set in a race? Or do you go through the entire qualifying with just the 1 set of fresh so you can have brand new Continental tires for both races on Saturday and Sunday?
And this is the strategy part of it, is if you're starting both races on fresh sets of tires, maybe towards the end of those races, you will have a slight advantage and you'll have the opportunity, as opposed to starting a position or 2 forward.
So then you think about Sunday morning, which may be 60 degrees or 65, 62, 63 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. Would you rather have the scuff set that already has the heat cycle, which are then going to, of course, come up to temperature quicker? Maybe you're a little better over the first couple of laps, but it may fade away a bit at the end of the run. So let's have a look at your lineup here right now. Number of drivers in the pit lane, as I said. Garcia on top by almost 3/10 from Elliott Cox. Max Garcia trying to pick up where he left off in 2024. Alessandro DeTulio into the third spot. So the Turn 3 drivers, Cox and DeTulio second and third. For TJ Speed, Ariel Elkin up into fourth. Jacob Douglas fifth. Matt Clark sixth. Michael Costello seventh. Logan Adams, who is a single car effort, a family-run team. Adams, the grandson of former IRL race winner Mark Dismore, in the 8th spot. Max Taylor 9th and Joey Brienza 10th. For VRD, Owen Tangjavelu now in 11th. Titus Sherlock for Turn 3 into 12th. Jace Denmark for TJ Speed 3rd last year in the championship, currently in 13th. Cooper Becklin, his teammate, 14th. Further down the field, George Garciarce in 15th. Nicholas Montiero 16th, Tyke Durst, Frankie Mossman, Sebastian Manson, Tanner DeFabis, Carson Etter, and Charles Finelli rounding out the field. Carson Etter finding at least a half a second from where he was. Carson, who did USF Juniors right into USF 2000, his first year at USF Pro. I liked his approach. Set that baseline, get all the laps in in practice. Here into qualifying, he's already found a half a second closing up on the leaders. So I think that is key for a driver like Carson, who does not have near the racing experience as these drivers. Instead of coming from karting, those dozen years of karting these young kids have, or a half a dozen, this is a guy that rode short course off-road trucks, and then said, I want to try road racing. Did some F4 racing in the West, came over here to the USF Pro Championship, so he's learning in leaps and bounds every time he gets in the car.
Yeah, that's a very different discipline than being out on the streets here in these cars. But again, that's the smart approach, understanding where you are, understanding the circumstances of, I've got one practice and I've got one qualifying session today, and that's going to set me up for both races on the weekend. Put yourself in the best possible position to succeed.
That's it.
So if you just accelerate a little bit more slowly, get as many laps as you can, there's a learning experience that you're gaining on each lap.
Yeah, the rookie Carson Eder in the number 92 for Exclusive Autosport out of Villa Park, California, in the Priority Workforce GATC Health Machine. He'll keep trying to find speed throughout the weekend and try to get those laps in, because again, for him, he raced here last at USF 2000. What he learns here in this car here, he'll be able to then run when we get to Toronto in July, another very tough street circuit. Just under 6 minutes remaining in the session, and we know a number of guys have been into pit lane. Elliot Cox was in the pit lane. Matt Clark came in as well, getting those new tires on. So again, you've got the new tires on. The temperature now 69 degrees. We still haven't broken that 70-degree mark yet. But you got to remember, you were pushing hard on those scuff tires at the end of the session. Remember the fact that these tires are now brand new again. That first lap out, don't try to do what you did on the in-lap. The out-lap's a little different.
Yeah, I was just watching one of the competitors who slowed down a little bit. It looked like around corner number 8 to let another car go through it. That's the other part of navigating qualifying, is giving yourself enough room out on track so that you're not affected by someone else. You don't want to impact someone else's qualifying lap, but you want to have enough space that you can drive as deep as you can into corners. Give yourself a good, clean lap with open space.
And listen, if you impede some other driver because you're slow, there's a chance you're going to get a penalty as well. See a driver pulling down to the inside. Exactly that. Get well out of the way. Let that driver at speed come through, and that's sometimes that's your spotter. That's the your pit box behind you saying, hey, listen, you just rolled out. We got a guy coming. Heed that driver when you come out of 3 to 4. Make sure you're allowed them to get by. And listen, that's not easy to do, because these little mirrors, they got little side mirrors. Sure, you can see behind, but they're shaking around like crazy. It's tough to see sometimes. So great to see these drivers here in this USF Pro 2000 program really handling the situation well. And again, they are the guys that have got to the very top of our program. They have experience. They should be the ones that are essentially the model, the example that our USF 2000 drivers can look at.
Those are some significant bits of information that these drivers will take in as well, because in addition to spotters being in their ear out on track and letting them know where they are if a competitor is coming up on them quickly to give room, or if you're approaching someone else, they'll be getting information of their time, of where they are in terms of the qualifying, where they need to improve, where they slowed down. So that's a lot to digest while you're driving the race car.
Yeah, exactly that. There's so much going on, as you had said, that, again, you're still trying to get that fast lap in qualifying. Max Garcia still on top, 3.5 minutes remaining. So remember, here's the other thing. They put on fresh rubber, but the fuel load keeps going down. As you're burning fuel over a 20-minute session, this car's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. So now we kind of throw it onto the driver a little bit. The lighter that car gets, the faster it's going to be. He's taking care of the tires right now, right, to make sure that they're coming up to speed, up to temperature. He didn't push that hard on the outlap, because you've got to make sure you bring those tires up smoothly, relaxed, so they get right to where they need to be. Ideally, on the last lap, you cross the line with maybe the timing line with maybe 10 seconds to go. You get one more lap. The tires are exactly at the temperature. The team is bang on hit the pressures as well they started with. You have then, of course, got yourself a big enough gap that you're not having to check up for a driver in front of you. Maybe enough just to get a bit of a draft potentially down the straightaway, and then the driver has to lay it all down. Everything has to come together. Tire pressure, fuel load, gap on the racetrack, maybe the draft, and then the driver has to hit every mark, every entry, every apex, every exit.
That's a lot of variables that go into every single lap for one of these USF Pro 2000 drivers that they're taking in. As we mentioned, so much information, processing it so quickly, and then applying what they're learning out on track.
Alessandro DiTullio for Turn 3 Motorsports has gone P1. He has moved Garcia down into the second spot. DiTullio a 109.037. Garcia a 109.455. call it, let's say 8 thousandths of a second between first and second up top right now. So close. Elliot Cox in third. Jacob Douglas fourth. Ariel Elkin fifth. Matt Clark sixth. Seventh is Cooper Becklin. Eighth is Michael Costello. Ninth, Jace Denmark. 10th, Sebastian Manson. So TJ Speed has all three of their drivers in the top 10. Less than 7/10 of a second separate that top 10, as it does actually back to 13th, less than 7/10, as you add Joey Brienza, Logan Adams, and Max Taylor to that group. Minute and a half remaining. Top 19 drivers separated by less than a second right now. This is good stuff here in USF Pro 2000. Who's going to come away with it? Again, fuel load going down. You want it just, if you've done it right, you've just snuck past the alternate timeline before and get an opportunity to get that one final lap in. DeTulio with a 109.037. A couple years ago, he ran in USF Juniors. Multiple race winner, finished fourth in the championship. Didn't have the budget to run in 2023. Instead, focused on his kart racing. At the end of the year, was the number 2 ranked single-speed kart racer in North America. Finally able to find some backing, a supporter, to get him back in the car last year. The focus was all on 2025. They did 3 weekends last year at the end of the season with BN Racing. He was one of the revelations late in the run, got a top 5 in Toronto, and a very impressive driver for sure. This is the year where he'll be able to come out fully funded for an entire season here with Turn 3 Motorsports, last year's champion with Lockie Hughes. We'll see whether or not DeTulio starts it off with a pole position. Let's throw this out here as well. 30 points for a race win, 1 point for pole, 1 point for most laps led, 1 point for fast lap in the race. So the opportunity to lay it down here. Why not be the guy that gets the first point of the year?
If you can set the speed for everyone to follow, that puts you in a good position. We're just waiting to see no
driver
yellow
off.
flag.
Yeah, we got a driver off. Someone's gotten into the tires at a turn number 4, overcooked into 4. That'll be a red flag. Now remember, I think we were almost done. Yeah, we're going to checker this. There was literally 1 or 2 seconds remaining. So this will be interesting whether or not this driver even gets a penalty for bringing out a red, because there's a red, but the session was already over. That'll be a teeter-totter decision there. But a driver's gone off, overcooking it. That's hard. Left side impact coming into turn number 4. That's a hard braking zone, as we know, leading into that very tough 5, 6, 7 combination. Checkered flag was just getting ready to come out. As I looked down, there was 1 second remaining. That's going to mean Alessandro DeTulio is going to be the pole sitter for race number 1. I can't give you race 2. Not quite sure where we are in terms of second fastest laps. But DeTulio, Garcia, Cox, and Douglas, 2 turn 3s and 2 Pabst Racing drivers. Those are the front 2 rows, and it'll be turn 3 on the inside, Pabst Racing on the outside. DeTulio alongside Garcia on row 1, Cox and Douglas on row 2. Sebastian Manson leading the TJ Speed crew. He goes up to P5, a driver who has been doing New Zealand Formula Ford racing, did also the Formula Regional Oceania Championship this past January and February, came away with a couple of victories there. Told me that was a huge experience for him to kind of level up, and he ends up going to P5. Manson is super impressive for a driver who has never been here on this racetrack before. Neither has DeTulio, so give him the shout on that. Matt Clark ends up in 6th. Ariel Elkin and Cooper Becklin 7th and 8th. Michael Costello and Jace Denmark 9th and 10th. Wow. Top 19 drivers separated by just over 9/10 of a second. Charles Finelli did 112.7, just 3.7 seconds back. I'll do some calculations whether or not that's where he needs to be in terms of the 103% rule. But trying to figure out which driver this is here. It's so hard to pick that up. One of the Turn 3 Motorsport cars for sure. Still not quite sure who that is. Looks potentially to be Elliot Cox, because we're looking down here at live timing and see who is in the pit area. Only a couple drivers not in pit. Might be Titus Sherlock as well. Another one. There's a couple of Turn 3 drivers who we don't see on live timing as being saying they're in pit lane. We are going to get a look at this when they get this car picked up and brought it around, but it's one of the Turn 3 cars that overcooked it coming down into turn number 4, and this happens a lot. This is where you're really pushing, especially, think about it, Todd, final lap, again, like I said, this is you with the lightest car you have. The tires are where they need to be. This is your push lap.
This is your one opportunity to get in the last final lap, get everything that you can out of it, understanding that this is going to set your fast lap for maybe race 1, maybe race 2, but you want as much as you can out of it. It was just waiting to see that car, which car it is when they get that steps towing vehicle out of the way and bring it back around. But that's one of the areas that we will find to be precarious, I suspect, again, this weekend. Turn 4, certainly one that it's a tight right-hand corner. Sometimes drivers will try to go side by side, but it is very difficult for that to happen.
All right, folks, let me give you, as we wait to see which car this is, let's give you the top 10. Alessandro DiTullio, P1. Max Garcia in second. Elliot Cox in third. Jacob Douglas fourth. Sebastian Manson ends up rounding out the top 5. Matt Clark in sixth. Ariel Elkin seventh. Cooper Becklin in eighth. Michael Costello ninth. And Chase Denmark rounding out your top 10. Todd, we've already cut off the feed here. We'll have to try to give you an update to find out which driver was involved in that incident that brought the red flag out, but we immediately went checker because essentially we were done. Essentially we were done there at the very end of that session. We will see if we can bring the camera back up here so we can have a look to see which driver it was. As they get this car hooked up, we'll be able to potentially see them pull away from the incident scene to try to identify the driver who was involved. We knew it was one of the Turn 3 cars. There you can see now the steps towing crew and the AMR IndyCar safety team right there. And listen, this is not the last incident we're going to see over all the racing throughout this weekend in turn number 4. It's such an attractive place to be able to roll in on the inside of somebody, but it also is a place where you can make up a lot of speed. You get that car in there with a lot of speed, get it to rotate, you can pick up a lot of time.
It's a great opportunity corner, that's for sure, as we're just watching the tow vehicle move through now, and we'll get a look at which car it was that found its way into the corner.
Elliot Cox. Yeah, Elliot Cox in the number 22. He was third on the racetrack, left front, damage on that machine. Now, again, like I said, we were kind of at the time limit. The checker flag didn't lose any time for anybody, or the red flag didn't lose any time. That'll be interesting to whether or not Elliot Cox is going to lose that fast lap. Remember, that could drop him down. You need 2 good laps here because it's not just one session. This particular qualifying session, fast lap of the session for race number 1, your second fastest lap sets the grid for race number 2. Although, one caveat, if you do go faster in the race than you do your second fastest lap, you're able to use that race lap as your second qualifying lap. So drivers, if you're further back, may be able to find more speed in race number 1 and then be able to use that for race number 2.
USF Pro 2000 finished for today. They will be back for race number 1 of the weekend tomorrow. USF 2000 will be back later on this afternoon. In fact, they will be our first race of the weekend. They'll close out our Friday program as well.
USF 2000 still to qualify at 105 too.
Exactly.
We're not done.
There's a lot more to go here on our Friday program here. The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg presented by RP Funding. Also upcoming is the MX5 program.
Well, folks, for those of you tuning in on the USF Pro Championship YouTube channel or the app, that's going to wrap up this session here right now. Of course, we're going to come back right around 105. USF 2000 qualifying will be on the racetrack. We'll see whether or not they can go green to checker as well. But thank you for tuning in, folks. We do appreciate it. Again, back at 105.
Look out.
Celebrate!